National Committee members will vote for a new chair. The chairman of the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party, Ken Martin, says that he already has support from 200 of the party's voting members. Chair candidates need at least 225 to win, and there are about 448 members, so this number is significant. Martin believes the path forward for the Democrats after 2024 is, quote, getting the DNC out of D.C., recommitting to building from the grassroots, and a strategy targeting all 57 states and territories. And Ken Martin joins us now. Can I just say, Mr. Chairman, I look forward to speaking with you, with my colleagues on Thursday at the Chairs Forum. But I have heard from some of your opponents in this race who say they don't believe you have 200 endorsers, and they think you all are inflating the numbers. What's your response to that?
Well, look, I've been overwhelmed by the support throughout this entire race, right? And we've rolled out all of our endorsements, at least the ones that want to be listed publicly online. My next closest competitor isn't even close at this point, to be honest with you. But that's neither here nor there. You know, my old boss, Paul Wellstone, used to say that you run like you're 20 points behind, even if you're 20 points ahead. We're going to run through the tape. We're going to continue to have great conversations all the way through this. And, you know, we'll know soon enough, in less than a week, whether or not what I said was accurate. I will tell you, we've doubled, tripled, quadruple checked the numbers. We've been overwhelmed with the amount of support. Look, you know, I've led our state parties the last 8 years throughout the country. I have relationships in all 57 of our state parties, deep relationships that go way back. And, you know, I've been, again, really overwhelmed by the support coming from all of our state delegations. We're the only ones, by the way, my campaign, that have rolled out multiple full delegations of state parties at this point. And so no other opponent of mine in this race can say that. And so, look, you know, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty of all this. I'm not running against them any more than they're running against me. I'm running for this position. I have a vision that's certainly connecting with the voters in this race, and I feel good about it.
Mr. Chairman, it's nice to have you on. I just want to know, why you? What makes you so different from everybody else in terms of what you're going to bring to a DNC that right now is on its best day a dysfunctional hot mess in its messaging, in its organization? How do you see yourself bringing that together when you've got so many different coalitions who think what happened in this last election goes in one direction versus the direction some others see? So you've got these split screen images and views of the 2024 cycle from top to bottom. How do you correct for that?
Well, look, I mean, I think I'm not here to win the argument. I'm here to win elections. And at the core of it, and you understand this, Michael, the role of a political party at any level, whether it's national, state, local party, is to win, to build the infrastructure to not only win the upcoming election, but to build long-term power. This is the thing that the conservative movement has understood in this country for the last 30 to 40 years, is that to build power, you have to contest races up and down the ballot. You can't just focus on 7 battleground states. You actually have to build a party to win and build a party to last. And that means making sure that you are organized throughout this country. Why me? Well, look, in 2010, when I took over the Minnesota DFL, we had just come off the worst election in over 50 years. The morale was low. The finger pointing was high. Our stakeholders were leaving our party, from labor groups to other organizations to donors. And it's very akin to right now, right? With all the finger pointing and the reclamations, right now what it requires is someone who's already done this, who brought people back into the fold, who wrote a long-term vision, who gave people a sense again on how we could win. And you know what? In my time now, over the last 14 years, we haven't lost a statewide election here, and that's because we built the infrastructure in a very purple state to help our candidates win up and down the ballot. We can scale that up nationally and bring that same model to the DNC. You know, look, it does us no good to come in second, and losing by less does not help improve people's lives. I'm the only person in this race that has a track record of actually building a party to win and building a party to last.
There's vision, there's organization, there's fundraising for Democratic donors who are disenchanted at this point. How do you bring them back to the table?
Well, just like I said, you build a plan, a long-term plan that gives them a sense of the arc of this work. You know, Wayne Gretzky, the great one, hockey player, I have to use a hockey analogy since I'm from Minnesota, said that you have to skate to where the puck will be, not where the puck is. And I think for donors and other stakeholders in this party, they're sick and tired of just this very myopic lens on how we do this work, right? In 2030, the Brennan Center just did a report on this. In 2030, almost all the population shift is in the South. The 5 fastest growing states in the country are Tennessee, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Florida, right? All southern states, meaning that we're going to lose power in the Midwest. We're going to lose power in the Northeast. And so we have to start preparing to meet that moment right now, laying down a foundation of support, starting to organize in those states so we're prepared to meet the shifting landscape. This is what I'm talking about. The problem for our party, writ large, for many years has been we're just myopically focused on one election cycle. Who's building for the next 10 years? Who's looking at those opportunities that are emerging? And who's starting to lay down a plan to actually address that? That's what the DNC has to do. Candidates come and go, but the party remains. The party has to be focused on the future and how we're going to get there. And so that's, for me, you know, we've done that, right? I was $725,000 in debt when I took over the Minnesota DFL. Our donors didn't want anything to do with it. But why did they come back to the table? Because they saw that I had a plan to win, and they bought into it, literally bought into it. And we'll do the same at the DNC.
You were asked, should South Carolina Democrats keep the First in the Nation primary, some version of that question. And there are candidates are split on this. You specifically said, this is from the Post and Courier, and South Carolina Post and Courier, the chair, whoever that is up here, should not be guiding that conversation, should not come with that outcome already in mind, should not put their thumb on a scale for a certain state, a certain region, or a certain candidate, Martin said, concluding, we have to be above reproach. So what will be your, because the DNC, the Democratic National Committee, has committed to every 4 years taking another look at the calendar. What is going to be your approach there in terms of leading? Because I agree with no fingers on the scale, but the chair must weigh in some way, shape, or form.
Well, here's what I would say. I was a member of the Rules and Bylaws Committee. I proudly voted to support the last calendar that President Biden asked us to support. But let me say this. I really believe firmly that this is not a decision of one person. The chair is one person of many stakeholders that should have input into what the calendar looks like. And it's a giant if, as to whether or not the Rules and Bylaws Committee even takes this up again. Of course, our charter says we need to review the calendar, but there's nothing that suggests we need to change it. But what I would say is if the Rules and Bylaws Committee decides that we are going to change that, the process has to be transparent and open. Every state that wants to have a chance to make a bid should be able to do that. And then what I think we need to do is have a principle that guides this process, meaning that whatever calendar we put forward should be rigorous, efficient, and fair. It should battle test our nominees so that we can win the election. No person should have an outcome determined already. We should have an open conversation to make sure that whatever calendar we put forward helps us win. And certainly the chair should not have their thumb on the scale in any way, shape, or form to benefit a certain region, benefit a certain candidate, to benefit a certain state. I think we need an open conversation. I've been very clear on that. And unlike some of my opponents in this race, I'm not making promises on any of the calendar because it's not the decision of the chair. It's a decision of our body. And if they choose to do that, we will have a fair conversation.
It's an important conversation, Mr. Chairman. I had it inside the party back in 2009, looking at the 2012 cycle, and anything you can do to shift the landscape, to your point about making it more rigorous for your nominee, but keeping in mind it's not just the person running for president, but everybody else down ballot as well. That rigorous test has to apply to those races as well. Ken Martin, thank you so much for your time and good luck on the race. Don't forget